The mining settlement of Colville was dying slowly. Once 12,000 people lived here, miners, engineers, their families. 3 mines operated. The cultural center buzzed with activity. 500 children studied at the school. Buses ran to Toledo every hour. Stores overflowed with goods. In the evenings, young people strolled along the main street. Now, silence. The mines closed in the 90s. People scattered, some to Toledo, some to Manchester, some farther. The elderly remained, those with nowhere to go. Houses emptied, overgrown with weeds, crumbling. The school closed. The cultural center burned down. 1 store remained. For everything, 2,000 residents. Average age, 63. A settlement living out its days. Gerald Peter Wolfe returned here to die. Not literally, of course, just closing the circle. Here he started, here he returned. 40 years in between. Institute, work, family, career, all behind him. His wife died 2 years ago. Children far away. Son in Newtown, daughter in Canada. They call on holidays, sometimes more often. The apartment in Toledo became too big for one, too quiet, too empty. And then Gerald remembered Colville. He bought the house for pennies. Old log with stove heating and a well in the yard. The previous owners, the Smith family, moved to Manchester 10 years ago. The house stood abandoned, overgrown, deteriorating. The heirs wanted one thing, to get rid of it. Gerald paid $300,000 for the house, plot, shed, and bathhouse. In Toledo, for that money, you couldn't even buy a garage. The first months, repairs. Roof, windows, floors. Gerald worked himself. Hands remembered, head figured it out. 64 years. Not old age if you take care of yourself. By winter, the house was ready. Warm, sturdy, cozy. Gerald moved things, arranged furniture, hung photos. On the wall in the living room, Lucy, his wife, smiles from the photo as she always smiled. "Here we are home," he said to her. "Remember? I told you about Colville, about the mine, about youth. Now you can see for yourself." Lucy didn't answer. She would never answer again. But Gerald liked talking to her. It helped not go crazy from loneliness. Winter passed quietly. Gerald stoked the stove, read books, watched TV, sometimes went to the store, talked to neighbors. The old folks in the settlement were glad for a new face, especially one that remembered old times. Wolfe, old man Michael, neighbor 3 houses away, was surprised. "That same Wolfe who worked at the 3rd mine? Well, you did it. 40 years passed and you returned." "Returned? Where else, Michael?" Understanding nod. Here everyone understood. Old age pulls to roots, to places where you were young, where you were happy. Gerald really was happy in Colville. Young specialist, 24 years, full of strength and hopes. Interesting work, good team, decent salary. Here he met Lucy. She worked in the mine cafeteria. Here they married. Here the son was born. Then transferred to Toledo. Promotion, new life. Colville remained in the past, like all places where we were young. Now he returned. Spring came late. At the end of April, snow melted, streams ran along streets, earth turned to mud. Gerald tended the garden, dug, planted, fertilized. Work in fresh air, the best medicine for melancholy. Evenings he sat on the porch, watched the sunset. The settlement drowned in silence. Rarely a car passed, a dog barked, someone shouted from neighbors. And silence again. Gerald got used to it, even loved this silence. After 40 years in the city, it seemed a luxury. But that night, the silence ended. Gerald woke at 2 in the morning, not from noise but from a feeling, as if something changed. Something in the house was wrong. He lay in the dark, listened. Silence. Wind outside the window, creak of old boards, nothing unusual. And then he heard the knock, dull, distant, as if from underground. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Gerald sat up in bed. Heart beat faster. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. He knew this rhythm. Knew from youth. From first days at the mine. International distress signal. SOS in miner's language. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. But underground, without radio, they knocked simpler. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. I'm here. I'm alive. Help. The knock repeated and faded. Gerald sat motionless, afraid to move. Listened. A minute. 2.
Silence. Imagined. A dream. Hallucination of an old man. He got up, turned on the light, walked through the house. Everything in place. Everything as usual. Went out to the porch. Night, stars, silence. Imagined. Definitely imagined. Gerald returned to bed, closed his eyes. Couldn't sleep for long. Kept listening. But no more knocks. In the morning he went down to the basement. The basement was old, dug when the house was built 70 years ago. Stone walls, dirt floor, low ceiling. Gerald used it for storage. Potatoes, jars, tools. He turned on the flashlight, looked around, and noticed in the far wall a huge crack from floor to ceiling. It wasn't there yesterday. Gerald went down for potatoes, remembered clearly. Clean wall, even masonry. Now a split. 5 centimeters wide, going deep into darkness. Gerald approached closer, shone the flashlight into the crack. Beyond the wall, emptiness. Not earth, not rock. Emptiness. He pressed his ear to the stone. Silence. Then, barely audible, air movement. Draft. From somewhere below. From the depths. Heart beat faster again. Gerald was a mining engineer for 40 years. He knew what this meant. Under the house, a cavity. Working. Drift. Mine. Something left from old times. And this cavity began to collapse. The crack. First sign. Then collapse, then sinkhole. If unlucky, the house would go underground with Gerald. The next days he spent in research. Got old equipment from the shed. What he brought and couldn't throw away. Geophone, seismic sensor, lanterns, ropes. Tools of a mining engineer. He kept his memory. Now they came in handy. Gerald set the geophone by the crack. The device recorded sounds. Any vibrations, any oscillations. If something happens underground, the geophone would hear. First day, silence. Only natural background. Groundwater movement, microseismics. Second day, the same. On the third night, Gerald woke again from the knock. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. He jumped up, rushed to the basement. Geophone flashed red, recording. The knock continued a minute, 2. Then faded. Gerald, with trembling hands, turned on playback. The sound was clear, distinct. Not noise, not accident. Rhythmic knock. As if someone hit stone on stone. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. This is not hallucination, not imagination. Someone down there was knocking. The next day, Gerald went to Toledo, to the Mine Department Archive. There stored maps of all mines in the area. Old Soviet, even pre-revolutionary. If something under his house, it should be on maps. The archivist, young woman in glasses, was surprised by the request. Coalville? Those are closed mines, why do you need? Research interest, lied Gerald. Writing memoirs. She shrugged, brought folders. Gerald searched 3 hours. Found. Mine number 5. Coalville Deep. Laid in 1892. Worked until 1967. Depth 320 meters. Closed due to flooding. Groundwater broke through. Pumping was unprofitable. On the map, location of workings. Vertical shaft, horizontal drifts at different levels, and a mark that made Gerald chill. The mine shaft passed 50 meters from his house, and 1 ventilation drift went right under the plot. Here it is. Here's what cracked. Old working that held 60 years, and began to collapse. But this explained the crack, not the knock. Returning home, Gerald decided. Needed to see what's behind the wall, with his own eyes. He widened the crack with pickaxe, crowbar, carefully. Stones yielded, crumbled inside. In an hour, the hole was big enough to stick his head through. Gerald showed a lantern and saw emptiness. Huge, black, bottomless. His basement wall opened to the edge of a vertical shaft. Ventilation shaft, judging by maps. Depth about 70 meters. The lantern beam, lost in darkness, didn't reach the bottom. Gerald felt the familiar chill. The one you always feel at the edge of the abyss. Fear and awe at once. He got the camera, old one on long cable. Lowered into the shaft. Turned on the screen. Image black and white, grainy. Stone walls going down. Wooden supports rotten, collapse it. Water somewhere far below, glistening in the camera light. Gerald lowered the cable meter by meter. 10 meters, 20, 30, and then saw a ledge, outcrop in the wall at 35 meters depth, and on it something, some mass, some object. Gerald aimed the camera, zoomed, and felt the ground slip away. On the ledge lay a person. The person lay motionless, curled up, pressed to the wall like a fetus in the womb. Clothes dirty, torn, hair long, matted, beard thick, covering half the face. Gerald stared at the screen, didn't breathe, afraid to blink. Hallucination. Impossible. A person in an abandoned mine at 35 meters. Doesn't happen. And then the person stirred. Slowly, barely noticeable. Raised a hand. Touched the wall. Fingers crooked like claws felt the stone. And began to knock. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Gerald felt cold run down his spine. Alive. This person is alive. Hey, he shouted into the shaft. Hey, down there, do you hear me? Voice went into darkness, echoed off walls. Echoed dull, distorted. The person on the screen froze. Raised head. Slowly, as if each movement was hard, looked up toward the camera. And Gerald saw his face. Thin, exhausted, skin stretched, eyes huge, sunken, lips cracked, bleeding. Face of a dying man. The next hour, Gerald acted on autopilot. Hands did their thing. Those same hands that for 40 years saved people from collapses. Head figured. That same head that solved...
Gerald felt heartbeat faster. Michael, can you repeat to investigator? Why not repeat? Truth say, as saw. Michael's questioning turning point. Old man told all, clearly, detailed, about car, about 2 men, about direction to ravine. Described time about 2 day. Described place exactly where ventilation shaft. Investigators showed him photos Victor and Oliver. These? Michael squinted. Looks like, exactly can't say, far, but like. You sure? Sure saw 2 men. That these exactly won't swear, but like. This enough. Oliver detained next day, home, morning, before work. He opened door, saw investigator with arrest warrant. What's happening? He asked, paling. Oliver Simmons, detained on suspicion attempted murder and leaving in danger. You have right to remain silent. This nonsense. I did nothing. Your lawyer will be called. Come. They took him in handcuffs. Neighbors watched from windows, curious, scared. Gerald learned about detention from investigator. Took, said Andrews, at questioning silent demands lawyer, but evidence iron, cameras, witness, victim statements, nowhere to go. What he faces, attempted murder up to 15 years, leaving in danger up to 5 more, plus business fraud, total 20 years if all prove. 20 years for year Victor spent in mine. Fair? Maybe, maybe not, but at least something. Victor learned about brother's detention same day. Gerald came to hospital tell personally. Victor listened silent, face motionless, stone. Arrested, he repeated when Gerald finished. Oliver arrested. Yes, evidence sufficient. He won't wriggle. I thought, Victor paused, thought I'd rejoice when happens. Year dreamed how catch him, jail him, how he rot in prison like I rotted in mine. And what feel? Nothing. Victor looked at his hands. Emptiness. He's my brother, own brother. We grew together, played together, built business together. And he pushed me into a pit, left to die? Tears ran down cheeks. He didn't wipe. How can that? How can own brother? For money? For car? For apartment? That's worth nothing. Compared to life, trash. Gerald silent. What to say? Victor right. Money worth nothing, but people kill for them every day. Brothers betray brothers, children parents, friends friends. World cruel place, and justice in it rare guest. Trial started 3 months later. Oliver denied guilt to last. Said, brother went mad, witness mistaken, cameras faked. Lawyer fought like a lion, disputed evidence, intimidated witnesses, dragged process but didn't help. Evidence too convincing. Cameras, witness statements, expertise results, and main Victor's own statements. Calm, clear, detailed. He told about that day, how drove, how walked to ravine, how brother pushed him back. Last I saw, he said, his face. He looked from top into pit, not scared, calm, as if checked I fell, then left me to die. Hall listened in silence, jurors pale, shocked. Oliver sat on defendant bench and first time whole time looked scared. Mask of confidence cracked, crumbled. Under it fear, animal, primal. He understood. Won't wriggle this time, no. Verdict announced Friday. Defendant Simmons Oliver recognized guilty attempted murder, leaving in danger, fraud. Punishment assigned 18 years imprisonment and strict regime colony. Oliver stood motionless, stared ahead with empty eyes. Victor sat in hall in wheelchair, with crutches, looked at brother, at person who once his best friend, his partner, his family. Their gazes met. Oliver open mouth, wanted say something, but couldn't. Guards took him from hall. Victor watched after. How you? Asked Gerald approaching him. Don't know. Victor shook head. 18 years. He'll come out 57. Whole life ahead. And you? And me too. Different life. Without legs, without business, without brother, but life. He looked at Gerald. Thanks you for everything. I did nothing. Just heard knock. You did everything. You heard, you descended, you found evidence. Without you, I'd be gone. Gerald put his hand on his shoulder. You survived. That's Maine. Rest will come. After trial, they went outside. Toledo, city center. People hurry on business. Cars honk. Life continues. Ordinary day, ordinary city. But for Victor, all new. Year and dark, and now sun, sky, people. He looked around greedily, like child. Fought never see this, he said quietly.
Sun, sky, threes. Now see. Yes, now see. He turned to Gerald. What you do next? Live in Colville, in my house, keep bees, read books, age quietly. And I? And you too live. Differently than before, but live. Victor nodded. I want return to Colville, look at the place where happened. Why? Don't know. Maybe close Gestalt. Maybe say goodbye to that Victor who died in mine. You didn't die. Part of me died. Part that believed in people, in family, in brother. That part stayed there in dark. Gerald silent. But maybe, continued Victor, there same born another part. That survived, that knocked year and waited. Maybe. They stood on street, old engineer and young cripple. Two people fate brought together. Come, said Gerald. When ready, I'll show you place and tell how heard your knock. I'll come, definitely. Victor came to Colville in September, 4 months after trial. 4 months rehabilitation, leg surgeries, physiotherapy, crutches. Doctors did what could. Now he could walk slowly, with a cane, but himself. Gerald met him at settlement entrance, stood by the road, watched taxi approach. Nothing changed, he said. Same settlement, same houses, as if no time passed. Time here flows slow or not at all. They shook hands, then hugged, tight, manly. Thanks for coming, said Gerald. Thanks for inviting. First house. Victor sat on veranda, drank tea, looked at garden. Apple trees, plums, beds. Ordinary village house, warm, cozy, alive. Good here, he said. Quiet. Yes, after city, rest. I remember this settlement. We with Oliver ran here as boys, climbed abandoned houses, played war. Happy time. He paused. Brother's name like blow. Even now, after everything. You miss him? Asked Gerald. Don't know. Victor looked into cup. Miss that Oliver from childhood. Brothers shared room, fought and made up. That Oliver I loved. But this don't know. Stranger, killer, traitor. How love such? Gerald silent. What to say? But sometimes, continued Victor, sometimes at night when can't sleep, I think, what if I guilty myself? What if did something wrong? What if could have prevented? You're not guilty. No with mind, no. But heart. Heart doesn't listen. After lunch they went to mine, slowly because Victor couldn't fast. Through field, along abandoned houses, to ravine on edge. Place changed. Area fenced. Red-white tape, signs dangerous. After Victor's rescue, specialists came, assessed, measured, declared plot dangerous, forbade access. Victor stood at fence, looked at ravine overgrown with grass, ordinary looking. Here, he said quietly. There, I fell. Gerald stood nearby, silent. We walked from there. Victor pointed with cane. Oliver said something about plot, about boundaries. I didn't listen much, thought my own. Then blowing back, and darkness. He stepped to fence. Fell long, seemed eternity. Then pain such I thought dying. Even wanted die to stop, but didn't die. Didn't die. Don't know why. Maybe lucky, maybe ledge saved, maybe just not fate. He turned to Gerald. Or maybe because you had to hear my knock. Through year. They stood at ravine long. Victor silent, looked, thought, remembered. Gerald didn't hurry. Finally Victor spoke. Know what kept me? There below? What? Sounds from above. Sometimes reached. Car sounds, voices, birds. Distant, barely audible, but alive. Listened hours. Imagined what's up top. Who drives? Who speaks? Where birds fly? He smiled. Bitter, crooked. That my window to world. Only one. I saw nothing. Only darkness. But heard life, and that gave hope. And when didn't hear, then knocked. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. Again and again. Hours, nights, until hands numb. Why? You knew. No one here. Didn't know. Hoped. Victor looked at him. Hope, strange thing. Doesn't obey logic. Can know useless and still hope. Because without hope, death. And I didn't want die. On way back, Victor asked stop. At old cemetery on settlement edge. Rusty fence, tilted crosses, overgrown graves. Here buried my father, he said. Want to visit. They entered. Victor walked slowly, leaning on cane, searched among dozens graves. One. Found. Simple cross, wooden, blackened with time. Plaque barely readable. Simmons Peter Ivan, 1948-1992. Victor stopped before grave. Hi, Dad, he said quietly. Long no see. Silence. Wind stirred grass. Somewhere crow cawed. I returned. Not long, but returned. To the settlement where you worked, where we lived once. He paused. You taught me a signal. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. Remember? I was 7. You took me to the mine, show where work, and taught in case trouble. Tears ran down cheeks. He didn't wipe. I remembered, Dad, remembered whole life. And when trouble came, I knocked. Year knocked as you taught, and heard me. He knelt. Heavy, awkward. Put hand on cross. Thanks, Dad, for everything. For childhood, for love, for lesson. You saved my life. 30 years after death, with your words, your signal. Gerald stood aside, watched, felt throat tighten. Father and son. Bond that doesn't break, even death. Words said 30 years ago and saved life. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. Signal that heard. Evening they sat on veranda. Sunset, sky painted orange and pink. Quiet, calm, peaceful. What do you do next? Asked Gerald. Don't know yet. Victor looked at sunset. Business gone. Had sell apartment for treatment. Money almost none. Bad. Yes, but alive. That's Maine. He paused. Think leave somewhere far. Other city, other life, start from zero. Can stay here. Victor looked at him. Here? Yes, in Colville. House big, room enough. Work find. Not business, of course, but something. Why you this? Gerald shrugged. Alone, boring. After Lucy, no one. And you? You good person. Endured such and not broken, not embittered.
That's rare. Victor silent. Thought. I'll think, he said finally. Thanks for offer. No need. Think. No hurry. Victor returned month later, with suitcase, documents, decision start new life. Gerald met him like first time, at settlement entrance. Helped carry things, showed him room. Settle. This now your home. Thanks Gerald Peter. Just Gerald. We're now family. Victor smiled. First time long truly. Family, he repeated. Strange sounds after what brother did. Family not blood, it's choice. You chose to stay. I chose to accept. That's enough. Life in Colville flowed slow. 2 people in an old house, one old, other crippled. Both lonely, both lost close ones, but together not so lonely. Gerald taught Victor beekeeping, showed how inspect frames, pump honey, prepare hives for winter. Victor happed pupil, grasped quick, worked diligently. You have talent, said Gerald. Bees love you. Maybe since you survived too. Like them winter and dark and cold, waited spring. Maybe. By spring, Victor worked independently, cared for hives, helped household, took honey to market. Legs still hurt, but he got used to. Learned live with pain like learned live with darkness. Neighbors accepted him. First wary, then warm. Story about man who spent year in Marin flew whole settlement. Victor pitied, respected, helped. You're now local celebrity, joked Gerald. Don't want to be famous, want to be ordinary. Ordinary won't be, after such, no ordinary. Summer journalist came. TV channel from Manchester. Wanted to shoot a report. Story miraculous rescue. Man who spent year underground. Victor refused. Don't want, he said to Gerald. Don't want whole country know. Don't want pitied, pointed at. You're right. Yes, my right. Only thing left, right to silence. Journalist left empty. Victor stayed. Fall Victor got a letter from Colony, from Oliver. Looked long at envelope, not opening. Then showed Gerald. What do? Your decision. Can read, can throw. And you what do? Gerald thought. Don't know. Probably read to know what he wants say, then decide. Victor nodded, opened, read silent. Face motionless, stone. Only eyes darted lines. Then folded letter, put in pocket. What writes? Asked Gerald. Asks forgiveness, says repents, says every night sees me in dream. How I fall, how I scream. Believe him? Don't know.